Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with another edition of Oilers Live Tuesday. I've got as my guest right now, Dash in the Park from the Heavy Hockey Network. Now senior writer and contributor, as well as podcaster. New article up today.
Keep stacking on the titles.
That's right. Yeah, finishing off Detroit Red Wings. Ugly win tonight. Ugly win, I thought, anyway, but they got it done. 5-2 is not bad. I'll take it. I'll take them however we can get them. Jack Campbell looked decent. Didn't look. I thought he was getting a little bit of overrated praise tonight. There were 3 or 4 posts at one point, but he played a solid game. He made the saves when he needed to. That's for sure. Your thoughts on tonight's game?
Yeah, a couple of big ones by Soup. It's hard to not be happy about that game, I think. Points in 9 straight. What's that? Getting a possible 17 out of the last 18. 5 wins in a row on the road. 8 wins in a row for Campbell. 9-1-2 since the show that you and I said that they were going to turn this thing around, I might add.
Yep.
Points in 11-12 since we did that podcast 3 weeks ago. It was a little bit ugly, I guess. What do you expect after coming back after a long break? McDavid and Draisaitl still had a little bit of Turks and Caicos in them, I think, and ultimately needed the secondary scoring. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. Might have been Fogel's best. So we just needed the secondary scoring to kick in, and it did. It just waited until the second period. Then things got feisty.
Yeah, it was feisty. I'm going to add in Kirk here, writer for Heavy Hockey, and a contributor to the Paddle Down podcast. You just did a episode, so if you subscribe to Heavy Hockey channel, Heavy Hockey Network, on wherever you get your podcasts, Kirk just did a podcast. Your thoughts, Kirk? We just heard from Dash about the game tonight. Thought it was a little bit thought it was a little bit of an ugly win, but a win nonetheless. Campbell, I thought might have been a little bit of an overrated performance because everybody was giving him high praise, but he made the saves when he needed to. He didn't play poorly, that's for sure, I thought. Thoughts on the game?
Yeah, no, I thought Campbell, he had to make the stops when he had to. Kept the boys in it there. I thought, like some stranger just said, I thought the top dogs were still on vacation or still stuck in Florida. And thank God for McLovin there stepping up, and I thought he was going to get a hattie tonight, but thank God for our bottom 6. At least they showed up.
Yeah, what'd you guys think of that stat? Was it Louis said, or maybe Jack said, but the Oilers being +5 or +8 goal differential when McDavid and Draisaitl aren't on the ice? I mean,
+11 now. It was +7 before the game.
Yeah. Was it?
The season before it was -21. The season before that it was -23. So that's quite an improvement.
Yeah, and
5v5
thing tonight. This is great. Like, Woodcroft's kind of got it where he needs to get it, which is have these guys, when they sit out, they come back hungry to play some games, right? Because the challenge with Fogel, and we heard this when he was in Carolina as well, was inconsistency. Mm-hmm. And he's had it the whole time he's been in Edmonton, but he'll have games like tonight. Like, he's capable. He's more than capable of being this player. He's a capable, guy that should be able to play second line some of the time. but he just hasn't shown that on a consistent basis. I think this is great. I think, you ride him until, he's not playing well anymore. And if JP is still on the team, you throw JP in, you work that. You guys, your thoughts on that?
Well, you mentioned there about McDavid and Draisaitl there. I don't know if you guys follow NHL Sid there on Twitter. He does do a little bits there for our competition, but he put out a tweet tonight that I thought was really interesting. He said, including tonight's game, the Oilers outscored the opposition at a rate of 47-38 at 5-on-5 without McDavid and Draisaitl on the ice. 55.3 goals for percentage. With at least one of McDavid or Draisaitl on ice, the Oilers have actually been outscored 65-66, just to back up what you said. So something to make a note of if you're Ken Holland. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Sid's been great. He's good with those numbers. He's, seemingly has a knack for that. Yeah, your thoughts,
I think it was 49-38 by the time that game was done, because they had another 4 goals without McDavid on the ice tonight. So
no,
that was probably a mid-game tweet, right? But yeah, it's nice to have the depth, isn't it? To have the team having a guy with the talent of Foegele to sit in the press box and think about it for a game and come back and have this kind of performance. I thought he was going to have a hattie tonight.
We were all cheering for it. There's no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Bring back
Puljujärvi
if you need
hat
to.
Trick for a guy like Foegele, right? Just being in front of the net, doing what you need to do. Nothing fancy, which, if he's scoring fancy goals, he's not playing the way he's supposed to be playing. He just needs to get the puck on the net and be there when it needs to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we've got Foegele played a hell of a game. I thought, the big thing circulating around Twitter as of late, I even hate getting into it, but I'm going to, so we'll just rip the Band-Aid off right now. The ask, as we're led to believe, by folks like Gregor, who's I think he's understands what's going on for sure, better than I do, let's say. And he says that Arizona is asking for 2 firsts and a second for Chychrun. Chychrun has been obviously a hot topic of discussion in Edmonton. Seems to be like the second coming of McDavid, by the way fans are talking about him. I'll ask, this is a 2-parter. I guess the first part is, do you want any piece of Chychrun if he's available? And then the second part is, if you want Chychrun, is he worth 2 firsts and a second? And if you guys want, I can tell you what I think, and you can respond to that. Maybe I'll do that. It's a little bit easier. My thought on it is, look, I get where fans are coming from. There's got to be something the team is going to do come trade deadline that's, will push this team a little bit further ahead than where they're at. I think, it's the team hasn't played. We talked about this, I think, last week or the week before. The team's somewhere in the middle between this 8-1-1 team right now and the team we saw, prior to this stretch, right? This is not an 8-1-1 team, I think, over the long haul. At least I don't feel that way right now. I think they need a couple parts, one of those being defense. At the same time, I'm thinking to myself, they're a better team than what everybody's been giving them credit for, right? Adding Desharnais into the lineup, the emergence of Broberg, seemingly as a solid, third pairing D, right? Barry's been half decent. I think that, the way I look at it is, there's no way I want to give up 2 firsts and a second for a guy like Chychrun, who for me has too many question marks A, injury wise, and B, I'm not convinced he's the right type of D-man for this Oilers team to go the extra mile. And so, if you're going to start giving up firsts, let's find the right guy, right? Or find somebody that's at least closer to what we need. Your thoughts? I don't know. Kirk, you want to take that one?
Well, I think we need defensemen. Stay at home. Stay at home. It was evident there tonight with our top pairing again. I hate the harsh on both Nurse and Cece. I know Nurse there, he blocked about 3 or 4 shots there in those penalty kills, but I just think we just need depth. We don't need another offensive minded defenseman. And I know Chychrun, he likes to throw the body around and he does contribute on the score sheet plenty. My biggest thing is for Chychrun is if he can stay healthy. That's it. I at this juncture, like I said on my podcast earlier today, I don't think Holland's going to bite. I really don't. I think he's just like 2 years ago he went quote unquote big game hunting there with Andreas Athanasiou, if you want to call that, and gave up a couple picks, but does he really bite on what Arizona is going to have to offer there and say, okay, well, fine, I'm going to give up all these picks and perhaps a prospect, depending on who it is, but I just don't see it, honestly.
What if, now, Kirk, before we go to you, Dash, maybe I'll put this in there, because if, let's say it's the only deal that becomes available to Holland, is it then worth 2 firsts and a second?
I don't believe he'll say no. If that's the only deal he's got on the
Holland
table,
would say no too. I think that's part of it. I think he'll say no as well. But
no.
My question is kind of, do you think it's worth it? I mean, because if Holland says no, but it's worth it, there's something to some of the commentary that's out there that Holland's doing a shit job, right? Right? Like if he's not willing to take that chance and quote unquote go for it, is he doing a poor job?
Look at his history. When has he gone all in?
Well, we know that.
Deadline?
Like Kirk, I don't. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. but my question is, if that's what's available to him and he doesn't take it, right? Like does that mean that this team needs a different GM, right? Like to go that extra bit. Maybe you can't answer that, but that's my question.
He loves his first round picks too much. I
agree. I totally.
I don't see it.
I couldn't agree more, Kirk. I don't think he's going to do it. But what's the argument in oil country is going to be, if that's what's available to him, and he doesn't take it, then there's I'd say a good 50% of the fan base that's going to be severely upset that Holland didn't, quote unquote, go all in, right?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't willing to trade 2 first rounders. Dash, your thoughts?
I've been pretty vocal on this, haven't I?
Yeah,
I don't want to.
You're hardly vocal, so let's ask the guy that sits in the corner, the quiet guy in the corner. Dash.
Just waiting my turn. Chychrun is too much of what we already have. I don't believe that he fills holes that we have in our lineup. I think he's somebody that can bolster us from a skill level. I think there's obviously some upside from an offensive standpoint. The thing is I said it from the start. He's hurt 4 out of every 10 games of his career, and he's been good as of late. But all he's proved in the last 5 years of his life is that once he goes on a bit of a heater, he's due for an injury. It's the last thing we need is to give up 3 first-round draft picks to go all in, as you put it, before this playoff run and have Chychrun tweak a groin or hurt an ankle again and not play the entire playoffs. Then we didn't get our big chip. We lost 3 first-round draft picks. That opportunity cost makes me want to throw up in my stomach. Like it's absolutely not worth it. You know, I understand he outplays his salary by a long shot. I understand that there's a ton of value there. You still have to move salary in, salary out, and dollar for dollar, there's still a lot of money to move. You know, if I was to describe Jacob Chychrun, he's a 6'2", 210 left-handed shooting defenseman, skates really well, makes good outlet passes, can skate the puck out really well, and contributes on the power play. Well, I just described Broberry in that exact sentence, like 6'2", 210, skates like the wind, makes good outlet passes, left-handed. Why do we injury prone, right? Like we've already got that guy. We did, and he's really affordable, right? So I don't like it at all. A lot of Chychrun's advantages come on the power play, and we've got 2 guys, I think, honestly, that would probably rank ahead of him on the power play.
Yeah,
Who's better than Barry?
Second power play on the Oilers, no doubt.
We don't have a second power play, Michael.
Yeah. and then there's that too, right? Yeah.
Right.
So,
and Bouchard's got that. As
and
far as a developmental standpoint, we'd be crazy not to keep giving Bouchard those second line minutes, because that's one of our top pairing defensemen of the future. So,
which is the thing I don't get. The word on Chychrun is he's a middle defender at best. He's a second pairing defender at best.
Go get Edmondson. Go get Carson Soucy. Go get McCabe out of Chicago. Whatever. Any of those guys are better than Chychrun, in my opinion.
I can't figure it out. I mean, everybody seems to, they're glued on Chychrun. Like, absolutely.
I never have
on
been.
this guy. And
they're just locked into the fact that he has the value of an $11 million defenseman at the price of 5 or whatever. Good 4.6 or whatever. Good for him. It just ultimately, it's 4.6 is still 4.6 no matter what he's worth. And
what we need, we don't need any offensive defensemen on this team. That's the thing. We need a guy that can play solid D.
Stay at home.
Yeah,
look, like the new defenseman defends with his feet
on the back end again, right? Would you love to have Larson? Of course you would. And he's nothing like Chychrun.
Yeah,
right. That's the kind of guy we need, right? We need the upgrade on CC. That's what we need. We need a CC.
Yeah, somebody with a little bit of sandpaper, but isn't afraid to throw the body every now and then and clear pucks out of the front of the freaking net. Like just container chaos, have that guy that calms everybody down when it seas are rough, just calm and just offensive defenseman, a stay-at-home guy, period.
Yeah. And any one of those, the Dash that you mentioned, fill that void. They're not like the best defenseman available out there right now.
We need another Vinny DeHarnay, but 29 years old.
Yeah,
with experience.
Yeah, vet.
Absolutely.
Yep. Playoff vet. Yep.
Then the next question becomes, how do you afford Chychrun? Right? Like, if you can't get...
I said that.
If you can't get JP out, and then I think you need to make a couple other moves.
You'd have to have Yamo on LTIR and move JP out, and there's $6 million.
Yeah. But some stranger says we need a Trouba. He's like, that's a bad word for me, man. Did
we not just say this in our private thread? Is some strangers, some spy? I think I got Hebert fired right up in our group thread because I said we need a Trouba. He goes trumpeting off all the time about how we need Corey Perry. Corey Perry? We need Jacob Trouba. Thank you, some stranger. You're goddamn right.
Hey, Trouba.
Printed.
Trouba. Neil Garrity says, I want Chirot and Perrin.
No,
It's
no,
impossible, but a guy can dream.
No.
You're right there.
too much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just
What about Luke
doesn't do
Shen?
enough. A lot of right-handed defenseman. I don't know if he can play on his offhand or not, but ultra cheap though. We can definitely afford him.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a while though. Is
Vinny
that
Shen.
the Oilers are going to get a guy that some people are going to
that's
have to
good.
look up, right? That's who's going to end up on in the trade deadline. It's not going to be a guy that everybody knows right away. You may have know his name, but you're going to have to look him up. That's the kind of trade Holland is notorious for making. Unless if somebody else takes the reins, that's what we're getting. We're getting a guy that, like CC, in some ways was that guy. Everybody knew who CC was, but a lot of people had to say, "Wow, what's he really done lately?" And that's the same kind of guy we're going to get when the trade deadline comes. It's not going to be any first round picks. That's not Holland style. And if he does, I'll be incredibly surprised. And I mean, but I just can't see it. This is the way. I guess my biggest question is though, like, if that's the case, I mean, where do the fans go? Where does the wind go as far as oil country is? I mean, it's going to blow up. 50% of the fan base. You look, Gregor did a poll. That's what sort of started me on this track. He did a poll about, what are you willing to go after? Dr. Gonzo says Gavrikov. I think I'd be all right with him. I'd be all right with him. I mean, if at the right price, right? But anyway, I mean, so Gregor did a poll today. Would you be willing to do 2 firsts and a second for Chychrun? It's 50-50, right? And when I commented on it, that I said there's no way, like, you'd have to put a ton of conditions on those picks for me to even consider it, right? And I'll be honest, I'd consider it at some level. I would say, yeah, that's possible, but here's condition 1 is that he plays so many games, right? Maybe he plays so many games in the playoffs. Whatever. I put a whole ton of conditions on there. And if none of those conditions happen, then it's a second round pick, right?
In other news, half of the corresponding voters on Gregor's poll were from Calgary and Toronto.
yeah, probably.
Man, I want
be surprised.
I want 13 feet of hulking defensemen in a pairing named Vinny and Radko. Like, that's terrifying. That's like 2 guys that show up at your back door with a baseball bat in the dark because you hold
they bury you in the muskeg.
Vinny and Radko will break your leg. Stay away from Stu's grease.
Yeah, they take you up north and bury you in there in the muskeg. No questions asked.
You're right in the middle of the Okanagan with concrete boots.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, let's move on from this. Kane, Evander Kane. There's been some chat about him in the chat there. Shay is listening in. She says, loves me some Kane. Black Masakari. Kane are fearless as always. He even overdid it tonight just to show off a bit. Yeah, I saw a couple. Anyway, guys, I mean, your thoughts on Kane tonight? I thought this is between Kane and then Costin there with the takedown, beauty takedown. And that, I don't know, it looked like a good old fashioned body slam. As you guys know, I'm not huge into the wrestling, but I could see why now. I get that now. I get the wrestling hockey comparison there. Costin had the great body slam. Desharnais, there was one shift there. It was just off of where the puck was. I don't know who he pasted somebody on the glass behind the net, and then they go out to the front. And I think that guy's like got pieces of Desharnais' stick embedded into his hips. This team's got a little bit of grit. for a change. But tonight
Since
it started
Vinny
with
hit the
Kane.
lineup, man.
It started with
You're
Kane.
playing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kane came back. Vinny hit the lineup. I think within 2 or 3 games of each other, and all of a sudden the boys are playing 2 inches taller.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was great.
Right? You think McDavid stands up to Patrick Maroon if they're not around? Like, I don't know. I just think that you get a little more fearless out there.
Draisaitl would. He'd probably stick him right in the nuts. He'd stick him right in the nuts. Draisaitl.
Again.
Good old cup check. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like Kulak made a date with Favre for the next game.
Yeah. Was it? You know, one of my favorite parts of the night, I don't remember who the Red Wings player was, but Costin, you know, when they're in their scrum and Costin says, look, either we're going to go or I'm done. The guy's like, I'm done. Sorry, big guy.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darnay and Boston have made it known they will enter scrums.
It's good. It's good to see this team doing that, right? Yeah. Like this is if I had to say, you know, there's one of the reasons for being, you know, what you said, +9 now on the 5 without McDavid.
I think it might be +11.
+11.
+10 or +11. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of it, right? That's one of the reasons. A little bit more grit, you know. This team was sitting around, they were what, -2 for a little while before this stretch.
+10.
Yeah. But they were sitting at -2 at one point. -2 or around there. And now they're at +28 goal differential. They're on fire. They're going on fire. You know, there's lots of good things, but this showing a little bit of grit. So do you continue on? My thought is, and I'll go to you, Kirk, because you're our goalie guy. You continue on with Campbell, who's now won 7 in a row, is it?
I think it's 8 in a row now.
8 in a row.
8 in a row.
Yeah. I would try to get Skinner back up and running. I would say split it 50-50 for the next little while. Even though I know Campbell's good, but you need to get Skinner some games. You got a back-to-back here on the weekend, so I would go Skinner versus Philly, and then Campbell versus Ottawa, and then Skinner versus Montreal, just back and forth. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'd actually probably play that differently, but I don't know if there's a wrong answer right now. That's the nice thing, right? Like, you know, you're not certainly it's this is kind of a nice situation because there's no controversy right now. They share
very
the
nice
net,
problem to have. Yeah,
right?
Very nice problem to have.
Mm-hmm. Like you could say there was a goalie controversy, but there's not. I mean, this is these are two guys that are sharing the net for a change. I would put Sean in Calgary says Campbell is streaky, keep the stash in shape.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'd run. I'd run Campbell for one more game and then run Skinner at the first half of the back-to-back.
Yeah.
Because that's the perfect time to get him in net. And you know, you got Soup who's just playing super well right now.
Lights out.
And that's probably
he's got swagger
but
back.
again, I don't think there's a wrong answer.
Yeah, I got another take, I think.
Yeah, all right. You usually do.
I don't know. I had a new baby not long ago. If I was on the road in a hotel, I'm getting way more sleep. You know, they got a 5-game road trip here. All 5 teams are in the bottom 10 of the league. They play the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th place teams in the Eastern Conference here on this little road trip. Get Skinner going now. Get him going now. Campbell's hot. Keep him hot. Get him a game or 2. But I think I'd play Skinner 3 of the next 4 on the road, and then you know, supplement Campbell again as a 50-50 on those, you know, home games, and try to get Skinner going as early as possible. But yeah, it's a good problem to have. I think going 1A, 1B, it doesn't matter who's A and who's B. It's just good news that we got an A and a B, and they're both dependable.
Yeah. I mean, even you know, Sean in Calgary says I wouldn't complain Whoever Woodcroft puts a net down, that feels good. Yeah, there's no
Got
wrong
it, brother.
answer in this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a and that's just it. And maybe you overthink it a little bit, even, right?
Like the way, well, I mean, no, we're not. Like, are the way they're playing right now, the way that we've got these two goalies playing right now, have we had a tandem like this since Logan Fuhr? Or, I don't know, honestly, like Habib Boulin
it's
and
a little
Delorier,
early.
like,
It's still a little early for me to get too excited.
Ty Conklin,
Just
Mike
based
Morrison,
Ty Conklin. There we go.
right? Like, what?
I was going to say
Dude,
Rolson and Markkinen, but hey,
Hey, you know what?
juicy.
That's not bad.
Not a bad one,
Wilson
Huh?
but
Markkinen. Look at you. It's like you.
who did
like
Cujo
goalies.
have as a backup?
You should do a goalie podcast, Kirk.
really?
Yeah. Anybody got a name for it? Paddle down.
There's a gap in our network if you want to try and do anything about goalies on a podcast.
No.
I'll
All
try.
right. Hey, guys,
I don't know.
speaking of the network, for those of you that haven't checked it out yet, our friend from the Cult of Hockey did a guest article on the Heavy Hockey Network. Mr. Bruce McCurdy wrote an article for heavyhockey.com. It's on there right now if you want to check it out. If you guys haven't read it yet, the gist of it is that a certain Mr. Broberg reminds McCurdy of another Swede. Have you guys had a chance to read it yet? And what are your thoughts?
I did, and he basically comparable there to a former legend who's no longer playing here, Mr. Oscar Klefbom, and it's actually scary, the comparables, like, and he topped it. He threw the cherry on top there, saying he's part of your building blocks, not a trade chip. And he hit the nail on the head there at the end. Like, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's unbelievable. When you look at how it's compared, the progression, everything about it, right from when they were kids to. I didn't realize they actually played together for, what did he say, about 50 seconds or something? I didn't.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Yeah,
something crazy like that. Your thoughts, Dash? Did you get a chance to read it?
Yeah, I agree with Kirk. I think it's nice to add that they're both molded out of the same sexy Swedish piece of clay too, right? Like they look the same in a picture. Second coming, and it feels like, and I hope that's his potential, right? But avoids the injuries and avoids the shoulder problems that Clef had. So yeah, I agree, and I think he's part of the core. He should be. Right. I think Bouchard and Broberg should be a pairing. I think there's a science behind why they're playing so much together this year. Like, I don't think that's by accident, right? That should be your number 2 pairing for sure in the future. And let it go. We made the investment in Broberg. We might as well go now. We didn't get Zegras. We didn't get let's go.
And if anything, I mean, you watch these two develop together like this, it gives you a little bit more hope for what the next couple seasons look like from an Oilers blue line perspective, in terms of the growth, even with Desharnais back there, the growth of Desharnais. I mean, I keep waiting for the game where he looks out of place, by the way, and he just doesn't. In fact, he's, tonight, he's a beast.
Did you see the footage there during the one break, and he's just hacking and whacking against Fabry? They're just getting in his kitchen and just pissing him off. And finally, just grabbing guys just on the back of the jersey. They're like kind of sort of a scrum, but he's like, hey, he's like the giant, Andre the Giant out there. He's just grabbing guys, and it's awesome, man.
It was nice to see, right? Like, it's something different for this. For this thing. Some stranger says everybody's podcasting at the same time tonight. How many different streams you watching? I know the Cult of Hockey goes on. When I'm post game, the Cult of Hockey is definitely on, but there's probably a couple different folks. But glad
Got your back's probably doing a post game short shift.
Yeah.
Yep.
We love the guys that got your back, as they said on their podcast. Ryan Rashog said he loves the guys on Straight Off the Pipe. So just want to share the love. Share the love.
Share the love. Share the love. All right, there's another article on Heavy Hockey today. Guest writer.
Kind of.
Dash
Goalie expert.
says, did a article, Homemade Stew, the Ascent of Stuart Skinner. Speaking of, progressions and direction, Dash, good job, by the way. Had a chance to read that. It's interesting to see, and I don't know, as you were reading it, and maybe you kind of had an idea before you even started it, but interesting to kind of think about his progression and how he came up the ranks, and it was always the same thing, kind of undervalued maybe at first, to a point where he was, overachieving based on the expectation, right? And the same thing this year, right? Probably undervalued at first, but now an all-star, first year all-star, and then the other piece to that article, again, go check it out at heavyhockey.com, is the fact, that, look, we haven't had many Edmonton-born players that have really excelled in Edmonton. I always, when I think about that, I always think about Lupul, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he is the first guy that comes to mind as like the shit show that happens when a guy from the city ends up in Edmonton, and just, anyway, this is just such a great story for so many different reasons. Southside Athletic Club, even the Berlin story coming in, and all those guys from the same team. I thought by this point in the year we would have seen Tyler Benson a little bit more, but he's got a role to play, I'm sure, at some point. Anyway, what a great article. And any of that like surprise you that it just had that progression all the way through his career? Did you I know have either of you like watched him when he was as he was coming up the ranks?
Yeah, I went and watched those guys play when they were in AAA midget. Soon after Tyler Benson, who you just mentioned, easy for me to say. Those 2 years that he played AAA Bantam with Skinner, he had 250 points in 68 games or something like that. Like, it was absolutely unbelievable. That league was completely loaded with future NHL stars, to the point where it's almost beyond possibility to look back and see, that AAA Bantam team or even their AAA midget team could produce that many, let alone the league they're playing in also had Sam Steele and Noah Gregor. There was guys that were absolutely bound for the NHL, and you knew it then. So, when the local radio was talking about this kid that's getting 250 points in 60 games, it wasn't tough to notice this 6'4", 6'5", gangly, awkward goalie that seemed to be able to bounce around the net with pretty good agility. Nothing's come easy for Skinner, in my opinion. Like, you kept saying, what was the word you used? I wanted to say underrated. You said undervalued, I think.
Yeah, undervalued.
And I guess I'd ask you what the difference is, really. Being underrated and defying the odds at almost every level. He wasn't supposed to probably make a AAA Bantam team when he was 13 years old, and he probably wasn't supposed to be the starter for a AAA midget team when he was 16. He probably wasn't supposed to play and get starts in the WHL when he was 16, right? And he wasn't supposed to be the starter in the East Coast League when he beat Dylan Wells for the job. He wasn't supposed to be the starter in Bakersfield when he kept the job from Dylan Wells. He wasn't supposed to be the starter in the NHL this year, and he's got it. Why do we keep doubting him? All he's done is progress at every single level at the exact pace you'd want him to. He's peaking at an age that's a little bit earlier than your average goaltender, having him at 24 years old. Most guys peaking at 27. I ended the article with, "This is homemade stew." Thanks for the idea for the great title, by the way, Kirk. But it's what everybody's ever wanted. He's the hometown guy. He's the goalie. He's the all-star. And all he's done at every level is prove people wrong.
Yeah.
Why not?
Kirk,
now
what do
too?
you got? I mean, Kirk, you're the goalie guy. I mean,
Well,
my only question
now.
should be, why didn't you write the article?
Yeah, I was good. I was actually shocked when I saw the material there in the chat. I was like, wow, okay, cool. Like, but you have firsthand knowledge there, Dash. Like I'm not an Edmonton native. I'm a Edmonton rural guy, I guess you could say. I don't have firsthand knowledge like you had. You seen him way before I did. Like I remember him being on the Lethbridge Hurricanes.
We had Oil King season tickets those years too, so we got to see him quite a bit.
And then he got traded there to Swift Current there for their run there. They won the championship, their WHL championship, and sadly they didn't win the Memorial Cup. A lot of people were toasting them like, hey, they're contenders. But I'm not surprised. Like when he had that one start there versus Ottawa there, I think it was 3 years ago, and then Schwartzy gave him his homework. He said, hey, this is it. This is how you do it. And he took that under his cap, and yeah, he put the work in, and it shows. Like there's nobody else that knows him better than Woodcroft, because he was there from day one. He said, this is how you do it, and Stu, like he said there in a couple of interviews, he said, it opened up my eyes. Like I couldn't rely on my talent. I had to put the work in, and just like anything else, like you see. And I have to credit Dursa with the title. I came up with an alternate title, but I know how much that probably annoys you. But anyways, but yeah, like
I thought his was homegrown stew and you added homemade stew. Is it the other way around?
No, it was home cooked stew and his was homegrown. So,
then I came up with homemade all by myself then?
Oh no!
I'll give all my
remember. It's in the chat.
Credit. I'm fine to do that.
Jeez.
I mean, I hate to brag.
Come on, this could not have turned out any worse than like
yeah, it's a train wreck now. It's just there's no going back now. But it's in the chat. It's in the chat. Anyways,
I've got to enlarge like the screen here so we can fit Dash's head in there.
Yeah, I'll just leave. I'll exit the chat now. Thank you very much. Thanks for that. Good night, everybody. But anyways, I was going to add in a basketball reference. You take a look at the grades.
Thanks, Dursa.
You take a look.
Basketball.
You take a look at you take a look at Michael Jordan. Same difference. I know it's a huge stretch at this point, but same thing. Like he didn't always rely on his talent. He had to put the work in.
Well, they all do.
So
right, they all do. Yeah.
But
you can, and I talked about this. I put a tweet out about Connor McDavid. The one thing that I noticed in the shooting accuracy is just how much of what he did was all muscle memory.
Yeah. Right.
Like he wasn't like he could probably do it with his eyes closed. He just sees the targets, and then he hit 4 for 4, or 8 for 8, and he did it in a mechanical way. Nobody else was like him. Like there's just nobody that was
he's a robot with cheat code.
He is, but here's the thing.
He's
you go onto YouTube and search, Connor McDavid, and you find like him doing these things when he was a kid, and just being like consistently spending hours and hours perfecting his craft till everything he did was muscle memory, right? Like, the one thing that drives me nuts is when people think that these guys are natural talents. There is natural talent there, but for the most part, if you've met any superstars in any sport or anything, it's the mental toughness, the mental acuity, like they're on a different level.
How do you think Draisaitl became an excellent passer, one of the best in the league?
Yeah.
He just
Keeps
same
going.
difference.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Keeps going. And Stuart Skinner's no different. You know, those guys, they talk about Connor Bedard being, you know, having to kick him off the ice at the end of practice every day, right? You know, these guys are great.
I was
He had
going to add on.
72 points in his last 10 games. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's been ridiculous.
Like
I was going
6
to add
hat-tricks
in
or something.
with Skinner there, growing up in a family of 9 other
Yeah.
kids.
Oh yeah.
That's a bit of a challenge there too. A lot of competition, I'd say.
Humility too, though, right? I think you're the youngest kid. You've got 8 older siblings to grow up and learn from, and right? Yeah, I don't know. He shouldn't is everything we've ever wanted, right? Like, he's great in the media, great under pressure. He speaks well. He looks good. He's huge. He's an Edmontonian. He is like, what else do you want? If you want to write the story in Hollywood, it's Skinner, right? Like, just keep it up.
You never see him
Just
melt
keep it
down
up.
like
The story's not over.
you never see him melt down like when he lets in a bad goal. Like,
Right.
he's just a
Like
rock.
Campbell telling everybody he's pathetic, and you know what I mean? Like,
As Sean in Calgary says, Connor and Leon are obviously always a good story, but it's nice to have RNH, Hyman, Costin, Broberg, Skinner, and Desharnais as well. And I want to, you know, we were again, you know, this is, and it's too bad we can't let the private chat go on, but you know, this is a controversial take, but I'm starting to side with Holland a little bit in how he's built the team, or how he's, you know, and it's sad to say it's a controversial take, but the reality is there's such a big group of Oilers fans out there that would love to see Holland move on. And I look at this team, yeah, you know, some of it was here before he got here, but he inherited some problems too.
we went from 24th to 4th.
Yeah, and we're, you know, third.
Come
third
on.
in the
How
third
dare
year
you,
in a
Paul?
row in the playoffs. But I'm looking at, you know, today I'm looking at this core group, like a core group that includes Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on forward. And the first guy that comes up for a contract is Leon Draisaitl. 2 extra seasons of Leon Draisaitl. Like, you could take one of those guys out of that mix, maybe not Connor, and you still have a really great core group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, whether, you know, I always hate saying this, but some people hate Darnell Nurse. But I go back to, you know, everything you've said, which is this is a guy that was a Norris Trophy candidate not that long ago. 6th. Finished 6th on the ballots.
Was that his outlier year? Would you say, or what? Or just growing?
I still contend that the only reason people dislike Nurse is the contract. And he's being overutilized on a team that is lacking solid D. And so if you had a guy like, we're talking first pairing with Cody Ceci.
Nurse's top 5 in the NHL over the last 3 years or 4 years in 5-on-5 time on the ice. He's top 5 in the NHL in time played against other teams' first lines. He's one of the biggest minute loggers in the entire NHL.
And he's locked up.
He's
right?
never had an easy assignment.
No.
And before the $9.25 million or whatever the hell he's making, he outplayed his contract 3-4 straight years. We honestly, we owe him this money.
Yep.
Like, when it all balances out over the 5 years Darnell's played, like, he's just fine with me. Just fine with me, Doc.
So you got him locked up. Let's just talk about the 2 seasons remaining in Draisaitl's contract, right? Because I think if we were, you know, fighting for, you know, I hate to say it, but if we're fighting for a cup, which I hope we are, but I don't want to jinx it. But if we're fighting for a cup this year and next year and the year after, if we did that 3 years in a row, I'd be pretty damn happy. And then add in Skinner and Campbell, assuming that these guys stay on the track that they're headed on. You've got those 5 on forward. You've got Darnell Nurse on D, plus whoever you add at the deadline for another couple seasons. Plus you got Skinner and you got Campbell. Look, guys, this is how teams, it took Tampa Bay a little while before they got going. And then when they did, they were running for a little while. This is how teams get it together.
Yep.
Right. And I honestly, I was not a Holland fan, but now I start looking at this roster and I start thinking about, hey, we beat out 28 other teams last year in the playoffs. We finished higher than 28 other teams. Mm-hmm. And we're going into another year where, Dash, you said it earlier, we're a second half team. It's been a second half team every year for the last few years.
We're the second odds-on favorite on gambling websites to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. I mean, this is
second odds-on favorite.
And we've got an opportunity to add folks, right? Like, depending on what Holland does, we will get better at the deadline. We're not going to get worse, right? We're going to get better. So, I don't know. I'm having a harder time being upset with Ken Holland. And trust me, like when I say it, I was on that track. In fact, if they had let Holland go in the summer, I probably would have. I might not have celebrated it on the stream, but I might have secretly sort of had a little bit of a smile and thought we'd be in the right direction. But hey, this is where we're at. Like, this is some time for optimism in my mind. Tell me I'm wrong, guys, or tell me I'm right. I don't know. I love hearing I'm right, so tell me I'm right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Right. No,
bang on, Bearsy.
Josh hit the nail on the head. Like you gotta with Holland, it's patience. And it kills a lot of people. Like towards the end of his career there with Detroit, he went a little crazy there with the contracts. Did it tarnish his legacy a bit? Yeah, I would say. But the guy won 3 Stanley Cups. You can say everything about pre-salary cap, the whole 9 yards. You still had to build the teams. You still had to have the know-how, the ingenuity to bring those teams together. So why knock the guy right now? Like, I don't know. And like I said there on my podcast, I hate to sound like a broken record, but the first day he was hired,
it's okay, nobody listens
going to
that
make
podcast.
Mistakes. Was that?
No, go on.
He's chirping you. He's chirping you.
I sneezed. Pardon me.
Right.
Gazoon type.
But yeah, like he's only human too. Like he's going to make mistakes just like everybody else. But do you really want to look back on Chiarelli and all the fucking gaffes he made? Like, hello. Like, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now. Dash, you have the floor.
I should point out that they're referring again to another article on heavyhockey.com. Josh Bolton, Tough Call Pod, wrote about Ken Holland, all the bashing that's going on. It was, 2 short weeks ago that it wasn't hard to find a tweet or anything out there that was saying fire Ken Holland. In fact, I still have it today. I still see it today. We still run into people that are into that, think he should be gone. And I'm not that far removed from that thought process. But the more and more I look at the lineup, as I said, it's just hard to argue with what he's done, and the results speak for themselves, right? The Oilers are not in a bad spot. We're 3 points out of first? Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's a huge logjam here right now.
2 points. 2 points out of first place in the division.
5 points separate 5 teams, I think.
Yeah. mean, that's not bad. I don't know. Man. Tell me I'm insane or something.
It's right where we had him last year.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly what happened. You pick up steam, you get the momentum at the end of the season when you need it, and you go into the playoffs with Robot Connor in the cheat code and Nuclear Draisaitl on one leg, and you just steamroll everybody.
Yeah. And Draisaitl
Raise
might
the
even
cup.
be healthy this year.
It's done. Book the parade.
Where's this turned into a Leafs
straight through
podcast?
Vegreville.
Did I miss something? Is this a Leafs podcast here? What's going on?
The Leafs haven't been out of the first round since Austin Matthews was 6.
I just read that. I just read that comment.
If I could
and had
drop
to
the
chuckle.
mic, I would.
Oh man. All right, guys, we're closing in at the end of this. It's just getting silly from here. It's getting silly. The Oilers. Let's just talk about what's coming up, and then we'll finish off for the night. Oilers
read that last comment first. Read that last comment.
It could be worse than Holland. The Oilers could have Rutherford. Yes.
Oh man, talk about tire fires.
That's true.
Oh, that's priceless.
We've got Philly coming up on Thursday, Ottawa and Montreal on the weekend, then Detroit. There's 2 home games in a row there that should be like New York with Trouba. The way they played Calgary, we can expect something very similar. That should be 2 fun games there. Detroit with the rematch from tonight. And then I think the Oilers will be nice and fired up when New York comes into town. Maybe somebody takes Trouba out early. I'd say you want to. You don't want him hitting your star players. That's for sure. How is that? You guys, your thoughts on that Trouba hit on Kadri?
Keep your head up and do up your chin strap.
Yeah, they just smile just a little bit.
He turned into a yard sale. They're pretty quick.
I'll give Kadri a props.
$25 for a helmet. Look at that.
Kadri did say it was a clean hit. He didn't complain about it.
It was.
Yeah. But I got props on that. Like, you get laid out like that. I mean, some guys will get up and say was bullshit or whatever. He didn't say that. As much as I dislike Kadri.
Man, for anybody that's played any level of hockey and come across a defenseman that's 6'5" or taller, your options are limited. Honestly, like
I've come across a defenseman 6'5".
Yeah, looking in the mirror, looking in the mirror. And you know what? I'll take exception to you saying that you're waiting for Vinny DeHarnay to stand out at some point in time or to jump out at you, but but he jumps out at me every time I see him, just like you do. He makes everybody else on the ice look like they're from Middle Earth.
No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for him to do something wrong. Is what I'm waiting for.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, not to. But yeah. No, I get where you're coming from. He's he's bigger than I am. Shit, I will tell you this.
He's way bigger than you are, and you're a monster.
I played league. There was this is in Calgary. I played one guy that was a little bit taller than me, and I remember how much it pissed me off every time. I'm like, where the hell did that stick come from? And then I played this guy in a couple of games, and then I realized like that's what people say about me, right? Like, the reach, right? It's a difference maker, and I hate playing against guys my height for that reason. And I can imagine Desharnais has that effect at the ultimate level in the NHL. It's fun to watch, and he doesn't look gangly. He's done his homework. Like he said, he studied Chara and everything. He's done his homework. He's earned his right to be there. He's just a late bloomer, and he's doing fantastic.
Kadri found out what it feels like to get hit by a condor taken off on a runway.
Trouba's brutal. My problem with Trouba is
Trouba's brutal. Nice,
he's like
nice response.
That guy.
He sucks.
Yeah. No, he doesn't suck. I mean, he's like, I feel like he's always looking to injure somebody, and that's my problem.
And we love Niemelainen for it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the same kind of mentality. Yeah. Maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just got my Oilers shades on.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. What I saw there, Sean in Calgary says 3-0-1 in the next 4 for the Oilers. Let's close this off with some thoughts on the next 4 before New York. Dash, your thoughts? How do we finish off the next 4?
Yeah, 3-0-1 or 3-1, maybe. We'll see how. I can see. I don't know, like one of those games, maybe there'll be trouble. Trouble will brew in one. I think I like our chances against most. I think I like our chances back home again against Detroit. Looks like they'll be fired up. Kulak's got a bait with. I think there'll be a few dance partners that night. Let's just be honest. That game, so I'm going to be pretty fired up. We're going with 3 customers. There's like 5 or 6 of us that are going to that game together. So. Let's hope that that's another doozy. But yeah, I'll agree with that. I think Sean's got his head on pretty straight there.
All right. Kirk?
I think, I hate to sound like a negative norm or whatever, but the whole early afternoon, morning games, the curse, it could be stingy there. I think both games are going to be stingy, and both both Ottawa and Montreal. I know Ottawa's, their version of, if you kick a hornet's nest, they're going to fight back, and they've been playing nasty as of late. Montreal is hurting. They've been hampered by injuries all season long, so they can be a pest when they want to as well. But honestly, if they go 2-2 or 3-1, if they finish off the road trip, they're over 500. I'll be ecstatic. I know it's not saying much. You can't discount Ottawa and Montreal. I'm sorry. Even with Philly there, Philly's been playing.
Sorry, Kirk. Do you want to take yourself off mute, everybody? Just kidding. Just bugging. Yeah, just bugging. I heard everything there. Yeah.
Yeah, you got me on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so you're saying what are you going with here? You're all over the place. You said 3-1-0. You said 3-0-1, 2-2. What do you got?
Yeah, 1-4. Yeah. Yeah. No games are going to be easy from here on in. People are like, "Oh yeah, it's the bomb feeders."
Get off the fence, Morris.
Come on, man. Give us
Quit talking out both sides of your neck. Yeah. Yeah, 3-1. There you go.
3-1. All right.
Yeah, 3-1.
3-1 is what I'm going with.
Quit rambling on, you moron.
You said it.
Oh man, I love you guys. All right. Right. We lost half of our viewership there during that moment, but
this will be my last last appearance on this podcast.
Yeah, thanks. That's your last appearance. All right, guys. We're gonna finish it off tonight. I go 3-1-0. I'd be a little bit concerned. Ottawa and Montreal speaks to the parity in the league that we've always talked about. Everybody talks about those two teams can beat top teams in the league any given night. Montreal, they're streaky. Ottawa's, I think, 6-4 in their last 10. 2 matinees, like 10:30 Mountain. That's rough. That's morning for these guys. So back.
I do think it's going to be banger after banger after banger, though. We had two fights in the first 30-some games of the year.
Yeah,
they were both Puljärvi. One of the times he didn't even drop his gloves. Now we've
weird
had
to think
7
about it.
fights in the last 10 games, and I'm going to predict there's probably 7 fights in the next 4 games.
It's right on. And it's exciting. It's good hockey. It's fun.
I like to see it like a Brady Kachuk and like a clean cost and tilt. That'd be wicked.
Oh yeah.
Something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, you might see Kane hop in there.
Or
You
Vinny.
never know.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going 3-1.
Vinny will fight Wi-Fi.
There you go.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that
there
would
you go.
be
That'd be a nice one.
that would be good. I'd enjoy that one. All right, guys. For those of you listening in, checking out the podcast, you can get the podcast anywhere you can get podcasts. Just check out and search for Heavy Hockey, and there's a number of different podcasts on there. Straight Off the Pipe, 99 Forever, Paddle Down Podcast by our friend here, Kirk. And then, of course, Oilerslive gets released on podcast forum as well. Check that out. Make sure you subscribe. More importantly is we've got a charity hockey game coming up March 4th of this year. 0 profit on this one. It's all going after the small expenses that we have for ice and a couple of the other things. It's all going to the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton. Really great organization. They give just tons of resources, tons of awareness to sexual violence, sexual abuse, all of those things, which if 43% of Albertans have experienced at some point. So make sure you check that out. You can check out the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton at sace.ca. But all the proceeds are going to that. Dash is leading the way on donations now, closing in on $1,000. Congrats to Dash. But we hope to, we've got some pretty lofty goals. So check out my Twitter, check out Dash's Twitter. We've all got fundraising pages up. You can donate there. And we still have a couple spots left for players if you want to come out and play some hockey. Should be a fun game. We're going to have Rob Clark sing the anthem before the game. Hunter, the mascot, will be in the stands with the kids and the spectators. We got Kirk taking pictures. It should be fun. It's been fun. We've done this. This is the 6th game that we've done, and it's going to be a blast. It should be a lot of fun. But incredibly important organization. There's about a 14-month wait for counseling right now. So funds are needed. So, if you do anything, $5, $10, $25, whatever, it's all going to a good cause. Help out or buy a ticket, because that money for your ticket to the watch party, which will be at first round, and it'll be the second half of a back-to-back with the Winnipeg Jets. We're going to watch that game at first round downtown and buy a watch party ticket, and that money will go to the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton, and you get to have a night out. If that's the least you do, you have a night out. I think first round's giving you $5 back too in a gift certificate for the bar that night. So anyway, good deal. That's all I've got to say. Make sure you check out heavyhockey.com. As I said, we had our good buddy Bruce McCurdy doing an article on there. Dash is an article. Josh, Ragu, the whole team. Everybody's been writing lately. A lot of good stuff on there. So make sure you check that out. We're going to give Dash, you had the last word last time. You'll get it again. Don't you worry about that. But we'll give the last word to Kirk tonight. So Dash, what do you got for us before we pass it over to Kirk, who's been waiting patiently for the last word?
I just noticed that when you went through the list of writers there, the guy whose name has rights in it wasn't on the list.
Jeez. Wow, still chirping you. What'd you do to him, Kirk?
But yeah, I'll write a goalie article. That's cool. You know what? Ultimately, just always a pleasure being on here with you. boys, and loving the Have hockey fam these days. There's no doubt about it. Just, let's keep this thing going. Definitely looking forward to the charity hockey game and not playing for any type of Team Dursa. And I'll end with that.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Dash. And as everybody knows, I give the last word up to one of my guests, and when they're done, they just say good night, and we shut her down for the night. Kirk, you got the floor. We're throwing each other on mute, and away we go.
Well, thanks again for having me on. Very short notice here tonight. Always a pleasure being on the show, especially when Dash is in sitting in there as well. It's always a good time there to hear him chirping me, as always, even though I talk out both sides my freaking neck. But laying all jokes aside, it's been awesome. I think it's been over a year since you recruited me now, and yeah, no, it's been nothing short of awesome being here. I can't thank everybody here enough at the network. And shout out to Bruce McCurdy, man. Like, yeah, the guy's a legend. And if you ask him any question on Oilers history, he will have it for you point blank. Like, he has a photographic memory. So check out them at his work there at the Cult of Hockey. He definitely does the Lord's work when it comes to the puck. So on that note, thanks to everybody tuning in there. Shout out to everybody on the chat, and good night.